Today we're going to be ranking every single Sword and Shield TCG expansion, including the subsets. We have all the way from Sword and Shield base to the most recent Crown Zenith. For context of how I'll be looking at this, I am basing it off of how much I like it. I am both a player, though I don't often play Standard, and a collector. So things that appeal to me personally and collectability will boost the set, and things that appeal to me playability-wise will also appeal to me as a player. I have been around for the entire Sword and Shield era. I've been going straight since about Steam Siege. I did take a 2-year break during the XY era. Didn't miss much, to be honest. So I was around, a lot of times to see people rank these sets from perspective of coming around the time of Vivid Voltage Battle Styles. So it is a little bit of a different perspective I'm providing here. Not just as a player, not just as a collector, really talking about both sides of the coin from my perspective. And yeah, we're gonna get right into this. I'm gonna order them, that way we can go in order. It'll be easiest to talk about sets in order. So we're gonna start with Sword and Shield. We'll go to like Rebel Clash, Darkness Ablaze. Then there is Vivid Voltage. I believe there's a set in between here, Shining, or is it Champion's Path? It's Champion's Path is not here, maybe. There it is. Champion's Path we'll put right there. Then we'll put Shining Fates, Battle Styles, just ordering them to make it easier so we can talk about these from an era perspective. So Chilling Reign went into Evolving Skies, went into Celebrations, went into Fusion Strike, Brilliant Stars, Astral Radiance, Lost Origin, no go with here, and then, yep. We're in order now, let's get right started. Sorry the logos are a bit terribly cropped, I did not make this tier list, just borrowing it, so shout out to Big Baby Tuna. Hopefully they're not an awful person that I just shouted out. Starting off, we have Sword and Shield base set. Now, if you're a player, these base sets are usually filled with staple cards. Obviously, we saw some of the best cards ever printed. Sword and Shield base set, Zacian V really took off. We saw Quick Ball, one of the best cards ever printed. Unfortunately, we saw some things I don't like, though. Marnie, while I do think it's a fun card in limited formats, is really awful for playing, and far worse than that was Professor's Research. We also got rid of the GXs with Sword and Shield base going into the V era, meaning that the Evolving was gone, and while Evolving was essentially already gone anyway because of the overpowered tag teams during the tag team season, it essentially wiped Evolving off the map, with the introduction of Sword and Shield essentially being like, hey, your Vs just go into bigger Vs with VMAXs. VMAXs are one of the worst mechanics the game's ever seen. Vs as well are definitely down there for being some of the worst cards in the game. Sword and Shield base, really kind of just whatever from an artwork perspective. There's not a lot of collectability to it, honestly. The gold Zacian was like the card to pull when the set came out, as well as the gold Quick Ball, really reflecting kind of the playability of the set, but there's not really any collector cards. Really, I was just after kind of a few of the cards I wanted to make some fun decks with, like the Gossifleur looked cool, so I picked up some of those. And obviously Whimsicott, because I love Whimsicott, but other than that, the set is really, really mid. And we're going to put it down in, I think, D tier. We may move it down to F, though. It's very close to being F. Then we have Rebel Clash. Rebel Clash, very cool logo on the set, I will say. And it's probably one of the times we've been closer to the logo of the set, or the name of the set in Japan. For those who don't know, Rebel Clash is our English set name, and Rebellion Clash, or Crash, sorry, is the name in Japanese. This set, obviously around Toxtricity, which ended up being a flop, and more importantly, Dragapult was the prime star. Not really any collectability once again. There's like Boss's Orders was the big card from this set that came out. And I did like Garbodor. I thought Garbodor was a cool card. Never ended up being good competitively, unfortunately. There was like the Phalanx, which was kind of neat in this set. This set is honestly worse though, because it contained the worst set of the entire Sword and Shield era, in my opinion, which was the VMAX Rising, which was a Japanese set that consisted of the 3 starters. And the 3 starters of Sword and Shield are definitely one of the worst starter trios I've ever seen. I do like Raboot, the middle evolution, but basically everything else is all toilet fodder to me. And having sets focused around them without really much appeal, unless you really like Dragapult, was sad. And well, we did have research in the game. We were all silently praying. Well, not some people. Some people love the awful state of the game currently. We were all praying for a no reprint on a Gust card, and that they gave us a boss's orders, meaning that we had to now have Supporter Gust, which essentially been the Gust of choice ever since it came out. Sword and Shield was a big era for Pokemon, taking away a lot of deck building agency of players by forcing them into using Research, Marnie, and Boss for almost the entire part of the early and middle Sword and Shield. Those were just, you played for Marnie, for Boss, and for Research, and it was just because there wasn't these like built-in like gimmick supporters like Colress to like facilitate one strategy. It was just, this is the best supporter card ever printed, put it in your deck. And that's really awful for the game. Boss really hurts evolutions. Not that they were seeing play anyway, but guaranteed Supporter Gust is really harmful for evolutions, and Discard Draw 7 is also very harmful for evolutions, so it's just a really awful time. The game was almost at its worst point here. We will get to that in just a minute, but the game was just absolutely unplayable. Not much for collectors at all. Boss's Orders reprint, just horrible and F tier. Then we have Darkness Ablaze. Darkness Ablaze is the set that brought in, it did bring in a few cooler cards, I would say. Like Centiskorch, Eternatus, and Salamence are cooler cards than anything we got in Rebel Clash. The supporters were all really, really mid. Same with Rebel Clash too. Like, obviously there's Boss's Orders for like players, but like as a collector, none of the supporters really spoke to me at all. Really until Shining Fates was like the first time I wanted a supporter. Really just Darkness Ablaze, kind of a flyover set as a collector, and as a player, it was just a total like meltdown of the metagame. You'll hear a lot of people quote the Team Up to Darkness Ablaze metagame as the worst ever metagame to exist. At this point, the rotation had happened in the Rebel Clash format, so we had lost all of the cards from Ultra Prism to Lost Thunder, the last of the good era of the Pokemon TCG before we just went into eternal darkness in, well, Darkness Ablaze. And if you couldn't know, this is one of the worst sets of all time. It's got a few cooler cards than Rebel Clash, but still an abysmal blight on the game, and just absolutely horrible for everything. Was it still able to buy packs this set, though? Can't be said for the next set. Champion's Path was the first set with the Sword and Shield hype disaster that Logan Paul brought upon this game. Like a meteor hitting the dinosaur, everything went horrible, shit hit the fan, prices went through the roof, and the game experienced a price surge of just like irrecoverable damage to the hobby and its affordability, its accessibility, its playability. Everything went down the drain, and really we've never recovered from that. Champion's Path's the first set with that. Champion's Path for a collector, you know, obviously most people were looking towards the Charizards, and I did pull a Charizard. As for me, there is literally nothing in the set. I despise Rainbow Rare, so I wasn't happy to get any of those Rainbow Rare cards that were in the set. I wanted like the Alchemy V because we were supposed to get that in Darkness Ablaze, but they cut it because Champion's Path doesn't exist as a special set in Japan. It was just a mashup set that they brought over here to try to sell more pieces for some reason. And it was horrible. Like, to call it just abysmal as a set. Champion's Path is arguably the worst set ever released in the history of the game. Almost no playable cards other than Alcremie really came from the set as a player. I guess you saw Rotom Foam. And like as a collector, there was just nothing. Absolutely nothing. Vivid Voltage came out, and there was a little bit more as a collector. I did piece together all 9 amazing rares, which were pretty cool. I will never forgive them for giving Celebi a CG stock artwork amazing rare while they gave cards like Raikou, Yveltal, and I'm trying to think, Raikou, Yveltal, Zacian, and Jirachi got good artworks. I do really like the Jirachi one, but Celebi got ditched with a CG artwork, which is always a shame. Really a fate worse than death. Vivid Voltage did have a bit more for collectors, though. The full art supporters started to pick up a little bit more here. I know Bee and Nessa were really expensive when the set first came out. This is full hype season now, so prices were through the roof. Pikachu's were like $300. Even the full art Pikachu was like an $80 card. Just the dumbest, overpriced BS we've ever seen in the hobby. and at this point I was still buying packs frequently, which was really a mistake on my part. I really should have dipped out earlier. It took me until about Astral Radiance to stop buying packs of sets when they come out. And at this time I was still buying mostly packs. That's where my money was going, and it was just awful. Nothing was fun to pull. Having Amazing Rares helped. Having Pikachu was like kind of cool in the set. The Secret Rare Golds were terrible in all 3 of these Sword and Shield sets, including Vivid Voltage that make 4. Secret Rare Gold Pokemon are awful. The full arts in the set, like I said, a little bit better with the full art trainers, so I can't give it abysmally low. And as a player, there's like, this added almost nothing to the meta, but it did add Whimsicott from Vivid Voltage, which is one of my favorite cards to play of the time. My favorite card to play, rather, at the time. There was nothing else that I wanted to play. D tier. Then we have Shining Fates. Compared to Hidden Fates in the past, Shining Fates is just definitely a blight. It's not a good set at all. In Hidden Fates, they've reprinted a lot of both playable and popular Pokemon to print as shiny forms. In Shining Fates, they printed only like Galar Pokemon, with the exception of like the Cinccino line and a Bunnelby. And what this does is that it ultimately, the set became way more collector focused than player focused. We did see obviously some player focused cards like Cinccino, which was, to be fair, not even that good, and Bunnelby, again, to be fair, not even that good of a card, to be honest, in there. But most of the shinies were unplayable, even of Pokemon that had like semi-playable printings like Cramorant and the 3 starter Pokemon. They picked the worst version of those cards, so those cards would never see play. Things like the Sobble with 60 HP were chosen over the Sobble 70 HP, the Grookey with the same thing, 60 versus 70, and the Scorbunny, same thing, 60 versus 70. They picked the 60 HP one, which was not good, so it means it saw no play. So just an abysmal set playability-wise. We did see some collector pieces here, obviously the Shinings. I wasn't really invested in any of them besides getting shiny Hatterene and Alcremie, just because those were cards. I like Alcremie as a Pokemon, and Hatterene was a deck I was enjoying playing at the time in Expanded. As for like the set itself, really, like, there was like Skyla and Pokekid, which were like full arts that I thought were cool, but really, like, other than that, there was just about nothing. I guess the Piers is like okay. I can't give it like as low as these sets, and I can't give it D tier, but considering that Hidden Fates is like an A tier set, this is like C tier. It is definitely much lower. What were you doing? Although I will say I do like the Celebi in the main set. Celebi was quite nice. Then we have Battle Styles. Battle Styles was definitely the first sign of improvement for the Sword and Shield era. Really, all of us were just sitting on our, tippy toes, like, please, God, give us something. Hands praying that the game get better, because it was at its worst possible state. Battle Styles really did not add much to the meta at first, but then the Urshifu's caught on pretty fast, a couple tournaments in, because everyone was still playing, like, Dragapult and Eternatus, but then the Urshifu's caught on pretty fast. People started using them. And mainly Rapid Strike was the better one. I predicted Single Strike was going to be better just because of the meta we were in at the time, where everything was about one-hit KOing on turn 2, but Rapid Strike proved to be very good. Cheryl was a great introduction to the game, and we saw Karina's Focus. The whole Rapid Strike engine in general, I don't like Single Strike much as a concept. The Rapid Strike engine in general is a very positive thing for the game. We saw obviously Artillery come in the set, and we saw the return of Alt Art. So for a collector, this set definitely improved. Cheryl Full Art's a nice full art, as well as the Mustard Single Strike's a really nice one. And the Alt Art's are really nice. If I had to say from this set, like the only Alt Art I really wanted was the Tyranitar and the Rapid Strike VMAX. I was planning on buying Tyranitar, expecting it to be like a $20 card, like Alt Arts were back when in the Sun and Moon era. They were like a $10 to $20 card, but because of the recent hype wave, that the meteor falling down and killing all the dinosaurs kind of scenario, Tyranitar ended up being a $150 card, which is not at all affordable, so I still don't own the card to this day. The set, though, is definitely an improvement on all of these Sword and Shield sets. These are down there for the worst sets of all time. Maybe Vivid Voltage I wouldn't include. And I think we're going to just move Sword and Shield down just because Vivid Voltage is a step above Sword and Shield. So we're just going to move these down here. These are like 4 of the worst sets of all time. Battle Styles, though, just going to give it a B tier. That seems pretty alright. Then we have Chilling Reign. This excited the collector and me like little else. For those of you who do not know, I have been waiting for years for a full art Caitlyn. Caitlyn is my favorite trainer in the entire series. I would get down on one knee and propose if she was next to me right now. However, she's not real, so I just have to enjoy her in card form. Chilling Reign brought a full art Caitlyn that I've been waiting for at that point since Legendary Treasures Plasma Blast, I believe it was, which was a set printed in 2013. And I really waited that whole time just for a full art trainer, because they did not give her a full art back then, as they didn't with most of their supporters in the black and white era. Really a 10 out of 10. The full art is perfect. It hit everything. They even had a new artist on to draw that full art. And since then, they've only done great full arts as well, so props to Pokemon for bringing on the new artists during this period. But Chilling Reign was really when we started to see the flux of new artists coming in. The alt art's definitely really improved at Chilling Reign as well. We saw the introduction of like the Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno. The Moltres one is obviously my favorite. We did see the Blight being Blaziken VMAX, which was one of the ugliest alt arts we've ever seen. I do not like Nagashi's style in the slightest. If you ever watched my tier list, you would know. And full art trainers, there was obviously Caitlyn. Peony was really cool. Didn't see play for a little while, but still a very cool card. I'm trying to think of the other full art supporters that were in this set, but honestly I can't think of anything but Caitlyn when I'm trying to think of Caitlyn. That's all I can think about. This set though, overall much improvement. We did see the Celebes come in here as well. I'm a Celebi collector, so definitely appeased my collecting side. As for playability, like there was some cards. Peonia was a useful card in expanded decks, though I eventually rotated away from it back to using just Gladion because I prefer the instant card that Gladion gets instead of taking a chance to see if I find what I want. And ultimately, that's just how it comes down to playability. Like there's obviously Shadow Rider in Standard, eventually expanded, Ice Rider in Standard, and we saw Blissey V in Expanded. So actually, I forgot about Blissey V. That was a deck I was playing at this time in Expanded. Blissey V was a ton of fun to play. Very simple deck that can really allow you to attack for every matchup, which I did like, because you can play like 30 different supporter cards. So, Chilling Reign. If you have heard, I have given it much more positive praise than sets I've talked about so far. I would not call it an S-tier set in the grand scheme of Pokemon sets, but in the tiering of specifically Sword and Shield, Chilling Reign is indeed an S-tier set. Really a home run of a set for everything that Sword and Shield had been lacking. It really brought in there. Though I will say Battle Styles is probably better playability-wise. Then we have Evolving Skies. All of the collectors are instantly yelling at me to put this in S tier, but I'm honestly not as big of a fan as they are. It does have some great collector cards, though. I'm not a big Evolution guy, but the Rayquaza V regular alt art, the Rayquaza V with Zinnia, and then the Golurk V alternate art. I was ecstatic when Golurk was revealed. Golurk is one of my absolute favorite Pokemon. It felt like Pokemon was giving me a pat on the back for producing a Celebi alternate art, a Caitlyn full art, and a Golurk alternate art within the same span. Little did I know we'd also be seeing a Whimsicott V, though that never got an alternate art. So I was really treated well in this period of Sword and Shield with my favorites. Obviously, I'd been waiting for Caitlyn for years. Been waiting for Golurk and alternate, or some kind of Golurk ultra rare. The V was really ugly, but the V alternate art was absolutely beautiful. Other than that, this set, I do hate a lot of the set. As a player, it is probably the worst main set of like anything. We saw like the EVV Maxes see some play, and that's essentially it. Rayquaza was bad. There's like almost no good trainers besides Rescue Carrier, and the set is gigantic. And I opened up a box of the set when it came out, hoping to pull a Golurk or at least some kind of alternate art, and I pulled a Rainbow. And then I went on later to finally pull a Golurk about 6 months ago. So 8 months ago at this point. So I was very happy to eventually pull a Golurk, even if at that point I'd already owned a Japanese one. But Golurk's a hit home and run. Great card. I love Golurk. This set definitely had some good artwork though. T0 was like going full time now. T0 is my current favorite artist. They illustrated the Umbreon V and Victini in the set. So there was it's a collector set. That's why I should cut it short. I'm rambling on. Evolving Skies is purely a collector set. From a player perspective, this is like a D tier set, but from a collector perspective, there's a lot going for it. Even for someone like me who prefers Chilling Reign for its collectability, Evolving Skies is still an A tier set because of the fact that it brings like the also Aroma Lady is in the set. That was another one drawn by the Caitlin artist that came on. Golurk is just incredible. I'm gonna end it with that. Golurk's great. Celebrations. Yes, Celebrations. What a good set. Celebrations makes me very happy. Makes me very hopeful that they'll eventually do this again because this is what the TCG needs. With the pandemic, all these retro cards have gotten expensive. Not that they weren't before the pandemic, but things like Mesprit went from like $5 to $15. So reprints are very good. Did they pick all the right reprints? No. Things like Imposter, Oak's Revenge were definitely a mistake. And before the collectors get in here and be like, why did they pick Claydol? Claydol deserved the reprint, 100%. But like in the terms of like both collectability and playability, Imposter Oak had nothing. I felt like they did pick too many Gen 1 cards, like you didn't need to pick Dark Gyarados and Rocket Zapdos. Rocket Zapdos is a playable card, so you could just pick that one and not pick Dark Gyarados. In terms of the EXs, Gardevoir EX was really good in Japan, but we didn't really see it that much over here. Because it was playable in a format in Japan, RSPK as we call it over here. That was never actually a format over here until played in retrospect nowadays. And even nowadays, that card's like not the best card in the format, but it was one in Japan. So they could have picked probably a better card, maybe like a Delta Flygon. I know people wanted a Lugia from Neo Genesis. Honestly, you probably could have picked Lugia EX instead, though, in my opinion. Give both a collector and player favorite, because Lugia EX was very playable in the LBS deck back in the day. Mew EX was a good pick, but I just don't necessarily love Gardevoir as a pick. Because there is definitely better Gardevoirs over the history of the game that, personally, I think have made more impact. As for the other cards in the set, I'm trying to think about the ones. Charizard, Venusaur, Blastoise, they probably could have just picked one, but having all three is fine, because that way no one ends up sad. Then we have the Cleffa. Cleffa was absolutely needed. Cleffa had gotten to be a $20 card, so reprinting that was very good. Rocket's Admin, another really good choice for the players, because it's another card that got to be about $20 for a single copy of it. Reprinting it really made the format more accessible for players wanting to play 2005 and 2006. We saw Zekrom and Reshiram full art. I think they probably could have done one of the two and not both of the two. I feel like doing both Zekrom and Reshiram is a little bit overkill. Reshiram was really the star of the two. Zekrom would go on to see play a little bit later in Mewtwo, but not Mewtwo Eels, but not really the star that Reshiram was in the 2011 season. Mewtwo EX, good pick. Obviously, probably the most iconic EX card next to Darkrai EX. Darkrai EX would be the other card that you'd want to pick for EXs. They picked Luxray and Garchomp level X. For me, as someone who plays 2010, this is very nice. Would I prefer they maybe pick a different level X than both Garchomp and Lucario? You probably could have picked something that not Garchomp, but really, there's not that many level X's more iconic than those two. When it comes down to it, the Xerneas was a bad pick. I did not like Xerneas at all. They missed their chance to put a Tropical Beach reprint in there. They missed their chance for Computer Search reprint. Xerneas was just to get some fairy representation, but they didn't give dragons a representation, so what's the point of representing types as a reprint anyway? And Xerneas was not that playable. Yes, it showed up in like one deck ever, but that deck was not very good. Realistically, if you wanted a playable fairy, Mega Gardevoir, Gardevoir GX, those are the most playable fairy types that come to mind. Gardevoir Sylveon even. And Tapu Lele was a great reprint. Finishing it off, oh yeah, also Team Magma's Groudon, another good one. Forgot about that. That one was very good. Obviously won the first ever World Championship, so that deserved a spot. And then, yeah, Tapu Lele, flawless reprint. Very good card. I talked a lot about the reprints there. I just kind of want to get the point across that a lot of like players are obviously going to complain. They only want there to be cards like Umbreon, Goldstar, and Charizard in the set, but ultimately those cards don't represent the TCG. There are words on the cards that you collect, and those words matter to a lot of people. And you can't just make a card reprint for collector cards. It doesn't really make sense. You want to make it for players to get accessibility, but you can also at the same time pick cards that are still popular with collectors, which is kind of what they had to balance there. Celebrations overall, though, S tier set. The main set has incredible artwork. Besides the Mew Gold. Mew Gold's ugly. but like the research full art, the research regular, the other like legendary Pokemon are all great. And then the 25 cards, while they messed up on a few picks, it's a great concept. I'd love to see it come back for 30th anniversary. We get 30 more cards. You don't even have to reprint the same ones. Maybe like reprint 1 or 2 of the same ones, but like this time you can give us Uxie so that we can get Uxie and Claydol. Maybe I'm on Copium here. Then we have Fusion Strike, definitely a step down, but Fusion Strike had some very big cards in it, like Celebi Alternate Art as a collector. I was definitely after that. Full Art Elisa, another one of my favorite characters in the game, so went after that. Also Full Art Sydney, a very nice card that I think is very underrated. Sydney's not one of my favorite characters, I just really like the Full Art. In terms of like other stuff in the set was kind of another unplayable blob. It's made up of cards all the way from like supposed to be in battle styles and Chilling Reign and Evolving Skies, like cards that have been held back for almost a year now, just slapped together. That's why the set is so big. Really, they shouldn't be holding any cards back. The idea of it is dumb because you're eventually just going to have to give it to us within the year anyway, so you might as well just give it to us when you can in like the main set, so it makes actual sense. As for Fusion Strike, it's like not terrible is the thing. Like there's definitely Celebi, there's definitely, you know, if you like the Mew VMAX, that's on you. It's just okay if you ask me. The Espeon's just okay. It's mainly for me Celebi, and obviously there's the whole Fusion Strike thing as a player. Fusion Strike is obviously one of the biggest cards introduced, so everything in relation to Fusion Strike was like almost playable, besides like the Latios thing. So even Latios was playable for a hot minute. I'm gonna give it a B tier. Then we have Brilliant Stars. Brilliant Stars is a brilliant set. Obviously V-Stars have not been a good thing for the game. Ultimately, Palkia V-Star and Lugia V-Star would really ruin my impression on what initially I was pretty excited for as a mechanic. Arceus V-Star was very cool, and I liked Whimsicott V-Star, and I like Shaman V-Star. So you can kind of see how I like this set. Ultra Ball reprint, absolutely incredible. Alternate Arceus is a very cool card. Some good full art trainers in here. I really like the Roseanne's backup. As someone who plays retro formats, Roseanne's a character I'm very happy to have back in the TCG, even if it is much less playable this time around. Berry Full Art's also a cool one that I've never pulled, sadly. And then we saw the introduction of the Trainer Gallery, really making packs much more exciting to open because you could get multiple cards in a pack. Character rares are one of my favorite rarities. And this is probably the strongest Trainer Gallery. Either that or Silver Tempest got the strongest one. Silver Tempest did get the Dredagon, but Brilliant Stars did get the Eevees, and it got the Dusknoir, which is really good, and the Zekrom, which is one of my favorite ones. Overall, just a really, really good set. I'm going to give it... It's like A+. It's definitely above Evolving Skies by quite a bit, but I can't call it as good as these two sets. And then we have Astral Radiance. Significance on the ass for what it did to the metagame. Sword and Shield of Brilliant Stars is a really fun metagame that I'm working on slowly rebuilding, because I did play it only on PTCGO, but obviously now I have the ability to play it in real life. So I'm slowly building up the metagame, got a few decks built for my archive, and Astral Radiance has absolutely destroyed that. Palkia, far and away the best deck in format, led to a World Championships where it was either play Palkia or play a counter box that beats Palkia, and those kind of decks are just not at all fun. Palkia is not fun, and then Arceus Pikachu is, like, well, I said, it's a counter box. You just hit the color that hits the one color, and you play Decidueye just in case you run into another Arceus deck. So it just plays the two colors that hit the colors you need to hit, and it's really just not a complicated deck. Really takes away a lot of the brain that was in the Brilliant Stars Arceus decks. These Arc Intel decks that were really complicated to play, really good mirrors out of them. Gone down to I hit your color and for double damage, woohoo, I win strategies, which is not fun. We did see the Regigigas though, and the Trainer Gallery still here. The Trainer Gallery was significantly weaker this time. This set had some really good full art supporters. I was really excited for Gardenia, and Silene was a card I was very happy to see in the game for control. Silene's a very powerful control card. We saw some really powerful trainer cards. Hisuian Heavy Ball is a card I really wish was in Brilliant Stars. Because I'm building that format, I'm like, man, I wish this had Heavy Ball in it, because it's really, really good. Feather Ball, I guess, was a card for a second. Really, the set added like a lot of powerful trainers, honestly. And so in that regard, I really can't rank it lower than A. I think we're going to add an A+, so let's do... Oh, well. I deleted that row. Let's add another row. We're just going to add 2 rows here because I accidentally deleted that. We will have A plus and we will have A, because really there needs to be a separation here. Usually I'm able to put this pretty easily, but like A plus here, we'll switch this around. So this will be blue and this will be green. So that way it keeps its gradient scale, sort of. We're going to put Brilliant Stars in A+, Evolving Skies in A, and Astral Radiance in A. Because Astral Radiance still is like a good set. Lots of playable cards, though Palkia was just, what the fuck were they thinking designing that card? Hint, they weren't. Pokemon Go, huge disappointment of a set. As a collector, there's literally nothing. I've been waiting for years. Like I said with Golurk, I was waiting for Ultra Rare for it for so long. Obviously, we had the Secret Rare Golurk back in the day, the shiny one. I did own that. Very nice card. I wait for Ultra Rare as my favorite Unova Pokemon for a long time. Still waiting for Haxorus as the recording of this video. Pokemon Go finally gave us a Conkeldurr, and it made it bad. Not to just make it bad, it's the worst V of all time. I say this with no hesitation. I can make any V work in a deck. I cannot make Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr is legitimately the worst V ever printed. I know Hatterene V exists. It's worse. Conkeldurr V is the worst V of all time. And I was like, oh, okay. It's horrible. It's unplayable. It's one of the worst cards ever printed. That's fine. At least give it a good alternate art. No, the alternate arts are CG. What were they thinking, man? As for new playable cards, I like Radiant Zard, though the artwork on Radiant Zard in the set is abysmal. We have to wait until Crown Zenith to get a drawing that's not look like a kindergartner's for the card. And Radiant Venusaur, very nice card. Radiant Blastoise, a little bit less good, though he is swimming in the pee, which is kind of funny. The set's awful, though. Pokemon Go is awful. I didn't buy... This is the first set I've bought 0 packs of. So, like, Astral Radiance, I was kind of, like, weaning off of packs. Go, I bought literally nothing. Lost Origin, significantly better. Off to a better start. Great alternate arts in the set. Giratina, obviously very good. I'm not a big fan of the Aerodactyl, to be honest, but Rotom and Giratina, 2 of my favorites. And we had, obviously, Hisui and Zoroark, which is pretty fun to play in Expanded. The whole Lost Zone engine, I love the Lost Zone engine. Sableye, Comfey, all really, really fun. Mirage Gate, really, really fun cards. Lots of playability in sets. So many cards. When this set came out, I had like 20 expanded drafts ready to go and pull cards, because there were so many different playable cards I wanted to try out from the set. And I was so excited for the set to come out, and it was great. There was lots and lots of cool cards. Lost Zone, I can make another 20 decks just off of the Lost Zone variants, even in Standard and Expanded, because Lost Zone is so versatile. Lots of things you can do with it. And they're all so fun and rewarding to play, because it's a deck that actually rewards player skill, which is very rare in the modern Pokemon TCG. And just a phenomenal set overall. A tier, or A+, sorry, with Brilliant Stars. Then we have Silver Tempest. If I talked about Lost Origin making me excited to play the game through all the interesting decks that it brought to play online, Silver Tempest is the opposite, where I was not at all excited to play because there was maybe 5 new cards to try out. I had a Braixen deck, I had a Braixen Zoroark deck, and obviously Lugia was like a thing, but like, ugh. Lugia destroyed the metagame. Lost Origin is another format where I considered actually building it for an archive. I ultimately decided on Brilliant Stars because I don't like Palkia at all, so Brilliant Stars gives me the ability to build an archive that doesn't have Palkia, and I'll just consider it the best format of Sword and Shield, though Lost Origin's pretty close. Silver Tempest went back to the worst part about the format. I'm not going to call it the worst format of Sword and Shield, because Rebel Clash, Darkness Ablaze, Vivid Voltage, and Champion's Path, and Shining Fates all exist, and those are worse formats. But it's really, really bad. Lugia is not fun to play. There is still Lost Box. The Lost Box has gotten significantly limited in its scope of what it's allowed to do. With Lugia around, you just need to essentially be on your A game at all times, otherwise you're going to get donked for 2 prizes every single turn, and I just don't like that. As for collectability, it does have the second best Trainers Gallery behind Brilliant Stars, if not the best. Dredagon was in the set. Superior V character super rare. My favorite character super rare. Really, really beautiful card. So in that regard, I can't give it like super low because it does have a lot of collectability to it, but playability, man, the set does hurt. We're going to give it an A tier. Then we have Crown Zenith. Finishing off the Sword and Shield, right with a really heavy collector set. Not much for players, though as a player, getting those reprints online was very fun. Sadly, I've not been able to open up any of the packs in real life because I am currently very poor, but I do one day hope to open up the set. Would like to just have some fun. As for some highlights as a collector, because as a player and a collector, it kind of comes together here. The Comfey art rare was really good. The Regigigas secret art rare, one of the best cards of all time. Sharon's secret art rare, full art trainer, one of the other best cards in set. Definitely number 1 and 2 with Regigigas and Sharon. The Roxanne, drawn by a character designer that I follow on Twitter, who designed for the Hisoneto Masotan anime. And there was the so many good full art supporters. Gardenia, another really good one. I'm not that into the Raihan, to be honest. Raihan's just kind of whatever. Then we go back to the main set. Miltank was a really cool one. Dunsparce, Ditto, and Mew was a really good one. Whimsicott got robbed again. Didn't get a shiny, and didn't get a and didn't get a character rare, and didn't get a art rare either. Whimsicott's been getting robbed in that regard. Didn't get an alternate art for its V either. Getting robbed. And yeah, this set's just phenomenal though from a collector perspective, and a player perspective it doesn't offer too much, but that's okay. I'm going to put it in S tier regardless. If I had to rank these, Celebrations is definitely the best, but Chilling Reign, man, with the full art Caitlyn in it, is really incredible, and the Celebies as well. Crown Zenith is there. This would be my ranking. If I had to rank each individual tier, it would probably look like this, and like this. I think I'm going to put Fusion Strike. We're going to move Silver Tempest down, because like, Celebi's in here, and like Superior's in here, and I'm kind of deciding like there's one redeemable card and like an otherwise kind of mess set, and so we'll put them together, and Silver Tempest is a little bit better. Yeah, that looks pretty good. As for the worst set ever, it is probably Rebel Clash for me. Darkness Blaze getting there as well. Pokemon Go, Champions Pass is the worst one, sorry. Sword and Shield's the best of the worst. Darkness Blaze at least got some like somewhat good cards in there, like Salamence that I really liked, but really just a blight on the game. That is all for this tier list, ranking all of the sets from the Sword and Shield era. Come back next week for an almost 2-hour-long special where I'm going to be ranking every single set ever. If you're excited, subscribe for more tier lists. I also do retro tabletop content every single Friday, tier lists every Tuesday, so check them out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.